evening. How's everyone doing? Is it nice to have a reprieve from that triple-digit weather? Oh, just hold on. It's coming back like a bad boomerang. Hey, woo! All right. So I grew up in Southern Ontario in Canada. And I grew up and we had an above-ground pool, which I thought was super cool. But it's Canada. So the amount of time that you can actually swim in a pool in Canada is a very short window. I mean, I can't imagine if I had a pool here, I'd be like, I'd spend my spring, my summer, my fall, some of my winter in the pool. Canada, it's really like my birthday's the beginning of June, and good luck if it's like you'd have to be polar bear dipping to jump in then. It's just not worth it. So anyway, missing the pool. Anyway, so I always think of when my kids are outside, in the splash pads or doing their things with their friends. I'm like, it's a blessing to be a California kid because you just get to spend most of your summer sopping wet to avoid all the heat. All right, so I'm excited for this evening. Every time I get this opportunity to come up here, it's amazing to me that I can do an hour-long class for School of Transformation, no problem. But then when it comes to coming up here, I'm like, oh, Jesus, 25 minutes. That feels like forever. But I know it's not true. See, I'm stalling. I've already, used up 2. Because I'm trying to warm you up because you're like, okay, what's going to happen? Here's Maria. Yay. But it's, I mean, you've been with me. Come on. You've been with me now. I've been part of the Father's House Church for 16 years. You're just not going to shake me yet, okay? It's a really wonderful thing to be here. And I count it a privilege each time I get to because I think it's incredibly important of what comes from here, what gets influenced into your lives. And that is a weighty thing that shouldn't be taken lightly ever. And so I always want to make sure I'm out of the way and that Jesus can do what he wants to do. And so sometimes that makes me feel like I have a yo-yo going on inside me in excitement of, okay, Jesus, what are you going to do? And so my heart for you this evening is going, okay, Jesus, what do you want to do? Not about me, entirely about him wanting to reach you. Okay? So we've had such an incredible blessing of having Isabel here for the last week and several days in the school, and I got an opportunity to sit in her classes and I could hear all the different things of where it was Jesus giving us the tools to be prepared. And I love that about Jesus, that he doesn't just surprise us, but that he actually sets it up of where if you're paying attention, you'll know. But the key word there is the paying attention. And so tonight he brought me to the Mark chapter 8, in which he wants, there's some messages for us to pay attention to. So you ready? So if you brought a Bible, open up to Mark chapter 8 if you like to actually touch stuff while you're reading, or it'll be on the screen behind me and in front behind you. Haha. All right. Because apparently I pet my Bible when I'm up here. So thanks, Louie. All right. In those days, I love it. I love the word. All right. In those days, when there was again a large crowd and they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples and said to them, I feel compassion for the people because they have remained with me now 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them away hungry to their homes, they will faint on the way, and some of them have come from a great distance. And his disciples answered him, we're going to stop here, okay? Where will anyone be able to find enough bread here in this desolate place to satisfy these people? We're going to keep reading in a moment, but I just want to point out a couple things. Did you catch how many days the people had been with Jesus? 3 days. Did you hear how he described the place that they're in? Desolate. So he has been traveling to get to the Sea of Galilee, and it's by foot, and so the crowds are just flocking alongside him. And this crowd in particular, which is good for us to know, is not just Jews, but also Jews and Gentiles. Because if you read earlier in Mark 7, he's talking to a Gentile woman, saying some things that when we read it, we get really offended. Because he's calling, well, what good person would give the dogs what is made for the children? Read it. Jesus is controversial. It's great. It's wonderful because he says these things not to specifically offend, but to make people aware. See, because he doesn't surprise us, but he lays things out. And so many times he's told them, my ways are not your ways. My thinking is not your thinking. If I told you the things of heaven, you wouldn't understand. I'm talking to you things of earth and you don't understand, right? We've read this in the Gospels where Jesus says this of you aren't quite ready to hear this yet, but I'm going to leave you a little nugget so that it'll either repel you or pull you closer. The heart intention, right? There's times he gets right up in some people's faces and really wants to shake the life into them because Jesus is compassionate. I mean, if when we read in verse 2, I feel compassion. We've had a sermon a while back of where it was moved to the bowels. There you go. It's this like inward, like, I just think of the thing that you love the most and what you wouldn't do for that. And this is this compassion that he feels for these people, that for no reason at all, no specific agenda, they are following him into the desolate place. So let me ask you this. How many of you like going on trips, vacations, things like that? Raise your hand. Wonderful. How many of you go on trips and don't plan ahead to where you're going to stay? Nice. Some of you don't. You must have capabilities I know not of. But we plan. We want to find the most comfortable places and plan ahead and make sure that we know what to expect, right? We like knowing what to expect because that can determine whether or not it's a good trip or a bad trip. Here they are traveling with Jesus. They don't know what to expect. So much so that they've run out of food. It's been 3 days. They are now out of food. And they have traveled a long distance and they are in a desolate place. Their hunger for Jesus and being in his presence completely outweighed their need for physical comfort or preparedness. Man, right there. I could end that and be like, let's just take that challenge and go, oh, great. I mean, if Jesus calls me to do something, I want to make sure I know that I know that I know, and it's going to be okay, and I'm going to be looked after, and all the T's are going to be crossed, and the I's are dotted, and right, Jesus? Before you'd ask me to do anything uncomfortable. You're not going to ask me to do anything uncomfortable, are you, Jesus? Because that wouldn't be Jesus, right? Because that's not compassionate to make me uncomfortable. Is this poking anybody? Yeah, I know. Because it's like, oh, wait, that has gotten into my thinking. That his presence isn't more important to me than eating. Than knowing where I'm going to sleep that night. His presence hasn't reached that point of most importance yet. And so, continuing on, his disciples they answered him, where will anyone be able to find enough bread here in this desolate place to satisfy these people? Okay, so with that, let's also point out the fact that if you skip ahead a few stories, this is not the first time the disciples have been somewhere where there has been less food than people. This is the second time. This is the second time that this has happened. And I'll give you the indicators to that. In verse 5, he says, and he was asking them, how many loaves do you have? And they said, 7. Do you remember the last one was how many loaves? Right. And he directed the people to sit down on the ground. And taking the 7 loaves, he gave thanks and broke them and started giving them to his disciples to serve to them, and they served them to the people. Don't move. No. Okay. Sorry. I didn't know the exact spots that I wanted to stop, but I don't want to. It's like giving the punchline before you. I don't want you to read ahead. But so here he's asking them, how many loaves do you have? Right? So they say, we have 7 loaves. So this is a different time. So what's interesting about this is if in our brain, and I don't know, nod at me if this is in your brain too, you think, oh, well, they should know that it's Jesus and he should be able to they should have offered, hey, we have 7 loaves, Jesus, and we got all these people. You want to feed them? Hey, let's go. You've done this before, right? So let's do this again. No problem, right? But they don't. They're like, where are we going to find food in this desolate place for all these people? right? Something in their brain went, no, he's not going to do it again. Well, these are Jews and Gentiles. Before, when he did it, it was all to Jews. See, the Messiah comes for the Jews, not for the Gentiles. So that was just a gift that God gave us in that time to make sure we were provided for. But in this moment, what are we going to do? Right? Sometimes we read over these things and we read them so quick that we don't integrate ourselves into the process of why did they say that? We think, oh, they're just silly disciples. Silly disciples. Don't they know? Shouldn't they have figured this out already, that it's Jesus? Right? And then we go, oh, shoe on the other foot. When I'm stressing about something and it's like, oh, I don't know, how are you going to provide for this too, Jesus? I mean, I know I have so many examples of these places and times that you took care of things, but maybe I was disqualified and I'm not qualified anymore for you to care for me. Anyone? And we go, oh, Jesus, I don't know, we're in a desolate place. I don't think the power of God is going to move here. And he's showing them that it's not just a gift that he gave in that moment of provision for them then, but it is who he is. He is provider. It's what he does, and it doesn't matter the amount of what you have or where you are. If you're following him, he's got it. So, moving on, they also had a few small fish. When this is described, it's as if it were, what are those called in the can? Sardines. Yes, thank you. Sardines. Obviously not in a can, but they also had a few small fish. And after he had blessed them, it's cool that Jesus blesses it, don't you think? I mean, who's he praying to? He's not praying. I bless my own food that it would not, but this is part of the ritual before a feast. Did you know that? That in the Jewish culture, before they have a feast, they bless it. So now he's setting it up for those that are Jewish in there to go, wait a second, what's happening? He's speaking the blessing. I only see 7 loaves and a few very small fish. What's happening? And then he ordered those to be served as well. And they ate and were satisfied. Bread and fish. Anyway. Apparently the palates have changed over the years. Anyway. But it's miraculous. Let's not downplay. Like, they were satisfied. He doesn't just give them enough to be like, hey, now your tummy stopped grumbling so loud you can hear me. But no, they were so satisfied they had 7 large baskets left over. Why did they have 7 large baskets left over? Jesus is showing off. I mean, he has every prerogative to do that. Okay, I am not going to tell him no. But the people still needed to travel home. Remember why he was doing this? He was moved to compassion because the people had remained with him for 3 days and some of them had traveled a great distance. So not only did he provide for them in that moment and meet their need, but for what he knew they needed to get where they needed to go. Right? It's like, Jesus, he's just so good. All right, where were we? All right, after that, okay. So about 4,000 were there. That they snuck that in there at the end of like, this is how many people were there. There were 4,000 there, and then he sent them away after they'd eaten their fill and they'd taken their baskets and gone. And immediately he entered the boat with his disciples and came to the district of Dalmanutha. Yeah, sure. Sounds good. I was trying to look up to how to break it down, but they were like, yeah, it's actually something that's near this area, and you won't really find it on the map. I was like, well, that's great. It's near Magdon. So there you go. So Jesus gets in a boat, and now he and his disciples, after feeding these 4,000 people, are heading over to this district. And here's what happens next. The Pharisees came out. Yay! Who invited them to play? I mean, really. So he's back into more Jewish territory now. He's moved from Gentile Jewish area, Gentile area from Samaria into now Jewish territory, and the Pharisees come out and began to argue with him, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him. Hold it right there. They came out seeking for a sign from him so they could test him. They wanted to know, are you someone we can give our thumbs up of approval to, or our thumbs down and discredit? Show us. Prove yourself. How wild is this? Look at the response. These people who walk into the desert with him, into these desolate places for days, not caring about what they do have or don't have. And as soon as he steps onto this district, he's met with opposition. Prove yourself. The testimonies of anybody that had come along with him would have been enough, don't you think? I'm like, yeah, but look what Jesus does. Look what he just did. I mean, the man can walk on water. It's wild, right? But they're saying, no. We are the ones in authority here, and you must give us a sign so that we can agree with you. So you can show us some heavenly attestation that you are actually the Messiah. And once you prove yourself to us, then we can agree with you. Jesus responds with this. Next verse. Sighing deeply in his spirit. When I read this, I felt it. I felt it. The frustration, the disappointment, the sadness of what? You're asking me for what? And he said, why does this generation seek for a sign? Truly I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation. Pause there. In Matthew, it talks about none but the sign of Jonah. The sign of Jonah is Jonah was in the belly of the whale for 3 days and 3 nights before he came out. Jesus was talking about him being in the tomb 3 days, 3 nights. There's your attesting of messiahship before he comes out. And it was a call. What Jonah came to the Ninevites to do was to give a call to repentance. Repent or be destroyed. So this sign of Jonah is repent or be destroyed. That was the sign that would be left for that generation of Pharisees who demand a sign from Jesus when they challenge him. And you know what their challenge caused? Next verse. Leaving them, he again embarked and went the other way. Other side. Pause. Yeah, so a whole district has now just lost out. Did you catch that? Jesus shows up. He went specifically there for a reason, obviously. Didn't get lost. He showed up there specifically, and that was what met him. And he went, bye. There's another version where in Matthew there he calls them an adulterous and perverse generation. They have befriended the world over God, and they demand things of God that say, you serve me, not me serve you. And so he leaves. He's saddened. He dies, gives this deep sigh, and I can imagine if I was there, he gets back in the boat, and he's probably just silent with his disciples, because they beat it out of there. And then we hear that he comes to, next verse. I'm really making sure they're awake back there. Isn't that good? Can you do the one before that? Leaving them, he again embarked and went away to the other side. And they had forgotten to take bread, and did not have more than 1 loaf in the boat with them. That tells me they got out of there in a hurry. They did not have time to restock. They were like, oh, not welcome here, but we're gone. We're out. So now they have 1 loaf, right? Okay, so they have 1 loaf, and Jesus is sitting there, after this deep sigh and this sadness and just this frustration with them. In verse 15, and he was giving orders to them saying, watch out. Beware of the leaven of the Pharisees and the leaven of Herod. Bless the disciples. Verse 16. They began to discuss with one another the fact that they had no bread. They are so stuck on the bread. So stuck. It's kind of cute, but not at the same time. Moving on, 17. And Jesus, aware of this, said to them, why do you discuss the fact that you have no bread? Do you not yet see or understand? Do you have a hardened heart? Keep going. Having eyes, do you not see? And having ears, do you not hear? And do you not remember? Keep going. When I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000, how many baskets full of pieces did you pick up? They said to him, 12. Keep going. And when I broke the 7 for the 4,000, like just yesterday, how many large baskets full of broken pieces did you pick up? And they said to him, 7. And he was saying to them, do you not yet understand? Okay, we're going to stop there. It's easy to criticize the disciples, to go, what's up? Like, why? You were there, people. I mean, do you know how cool it would be to watch like 7 loaves suddenly bloop, 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 like turn into something that feeds 4,000 people and have them be full? I mean, I've seen some men with some appetites. That's not an easy task, right? And it's just loaves and fish. And so it's this thing of where it's like, how do you not see who God is? How do you not know that this is God that's with you? How are you so concerned about what you do or don't have or where you are or what you won't, where you won't? They get so caught up in the things that they can deal with that they forget who they're with. And I feel like this challenge comes to us of like, okay, so Jesus is not walking in the flesh with us right now. He's actually meant to be every single one of you in this room. So we actually have less of an excuse because there's more Jesus in this room. Did you know that? Him now living in you means that there is more of him for us to encounter. And yet, what are the things that stress us out? What are the things that we get told and we go, I don't think that can happen. Do you not know who I am, Jesus? Do you not know my limitations and my inabilities and like my background? I really don't. I think you got the wrong person. All right? We can hear words from the Lord of what Isabel shared to us. And we can go, that's great for somebody else. That's not me, right, Jesus? Because you wouldn't ask that of me, right, Jesus? And he goes, do you not remember where you once were? Do you not remember how you once were begging, God, will you change my life? I hate where I'm at. Was that anyone in the room? Were you hated where you were at and begging God to change something for you? And look where you are now. Has it changed? So there's a loaf of bread. He's the same. He is the same God who provides. But it's are you willing to walk with him into the desolate place if that's where he goes? Or are you going to meet him at the edge of town and go, prove yourself before I go with you? Prove yourself again that you are actually the Messiah and why I should trust your words, not my own. We do that. Oh, it breaks my heart to realize I do that, of where I ask him to prove yourself again to me, God, because it's out of this place of I am an orphan. I'm in great debt and I have to beg you to just grace me with a morsel. When that cross means that sonship, daughtership is available to us. And it's now out of an inheritance that we can have 7 baskets left over. It's not the measly that we have to live with, it's the plenty. If we'll go, here you go. What do you want to do? Okay, it costs the loaves. Okay, it costs me having to go to these places that I don't know what to expect. Okay, it comes to a place of where I don't know what I have, but if I have you, it's going to work out. And not be forgetful of, wait, that was only for then. That doesn't translate into now. Because that's how quickly we forget who he actually is, what he's actually done. See, I'm grateful that they decided, hey, let's make notes about the things that God has done. Because do you know how that's influenced our lives? If they had not written these things down? Because God's words are meant to be preserved. God's words are meant to have an influence. The leaven that Jesus is warning the disciples about is not a lack of bread. It's the, what are you allowing to influence you? Do not become like them, where you challenge God and you say, prove yourself. Where you prefer friendship with the world to make you comfortable rather than following him into a desolate place. See, those people probably would have just left if Jesus asked them to leave without anything anyway. But he provided. He knew their need and provided. There's multiple places where it says that in here. That he knows what you need. He has counted the very number of hairs on your head. He knows when you get up and when you lay down. He knows you. Do you know him? And so I feel like God is asking us tonight to step past what was comfortable. Yes. We have to have an action. We have to have a response that shows him, I actually trust and believe you. So that he can be and do what he only can do. In and of ourselves, we cannot. But with him, there's abundance, there's provision, there's miraculous, and there is an adventure that is beyond our imagination. And it's not out of him needing to prove himself, but out of his compassionate heart. You want to see God move in your life? Get around people that need him. Get around people and then make yourself accessible for him to use you. Because we are meant to be the Jesuses walking on this earth. We're not meant to live in judgment of those disciples and go, how quickly do you forget? Let's not be people that Jesus says of having eyes to see, you don't see. Having ears to hear, you don't hear. But let's be people that see and hear. Because when God speaks, he'll let you know what's going on if you're paying attention. Will you stand with me? I need you to hear me in that he knows you better than you know yourself. Okay? So all the disqualifying thoughts that are trying to go through here, would you do me a favor? Tell them to shut up. Sorry if I'm not supposed to say that. Tell them to be quiet, but the firmer version. Because have they helped you? Have they helped you? Those doubting thoughts in your head that tried to tell you, no, not you. Try to disqualify you. Have they helped you? Come on, I need to hear from you. Have they helped you? Okay, so you tired of it yet? Has Jesus said some incredible things to you? And have you seen the fulfillment of those things yet? Ooh, good, but there's more. See, some people said, yes, they have seen the fulfillment, but I think that there's more. I think, yes, okay, he saved me from this. So now, okay, my life is no longer in peril, but okay, I'm okay because I'm no longer this person. So we'll stay right here. We have that option. You know that. You have an option that you can stay right there. And when he comes to town, you can tell him, no, move along. Or we can invite him in and say, I have no idea what you're going to do, but I'm going to take this step further. I'm going to trust and believe that you have more than what I anticipated for. And the things that you've said that my brain can't quite catch up with, you're going to accomplish because you're God, I'm not. So let's close our eyes and let's just place our hands on our hearts. Jesus, we want to have ears to hear and eyes that see you at work. We don't want to come at you with our judgments and our expectations to say, prove yourself and forgive us. Oh God, forgive us where we have. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't realize that we were asking you to prove yourself. In many ways, Jesus, we thought we weren't worthy of you coming close. We thought we didn't qualify. Like we were the Gentiles of the day that they didn't earn a place with God, where the Jews felt they had. But Jesus, you died on that cross to make it possible for Gentiles like us to come close. And it's not out of our own merit. It's not out of our own doing. It's not out of our own ability or our own goodness, but it's completely because of your compassion, your mercy, your love, and your grace. And so if you're willing to allow his love to go into your heart tonight, to shake loose those things where you thought you weren't good enough, would you just out loud say to him, I choose to receive more of your love. And Holy Spirit, we invite your presence to increase our awareness of you in this room, because this is your desire, that we be one with you, that we be close to you, that we would be shaken free of the bonds that try to trip us up in this race that we run, a race towards you, knowing you better, seeing you clearer. Jesus, we don't want to question. We want to be people of faith. So would you heal our hearts in the places that have been hurting, in the places where experience has lacked, where the experience has been negative? And would you restore our faith and our trust? And we ask, Holy Spirit, that you would prompt us, that we would have a fire under our backsides, that we wouldn't sit back and go, it's good enough. But if you're willing to allow Jesus to have his way in your life, that you can be that one loaf of bread that he can multiply and make fill the need of the people, would you tell him, Jesus, here I am. Use me. I choose you, not this world. I'll go with you into the desolate place. I want to be in your presence.
Thank you so much for watching this video. We really appreciate it. And please make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any of our videos or our live stream. You can also support the Father's House financially by clicking the Give button. Thank you so much for watching, and we hope to see you again soon.